Inside Story Uganda. Real source
to have civilians tried before the court martial. What is at stake? I'm joined tonight by Honorable Semuju Ibrahim Nganda, Member of Parliament for Kira Municipality and spokesperson of the newly created PFF. Honorable Emmanuel Dombo, Director Communications at the NRM Secretariat. You're welcome. We have Council Benjamin Katana, the Treasurer of the National Interplatform, and Dr. Lawrence Serwambala, the Executive Director of the Inter-Parties Organization for Dialogue. Good to have you all, and thank you for joining us. Honorable Semuju, I'll start with you. Your walkout from Parliament has been widely criticized. What do you think it was strategic for you to miss out on the Hansard?
You see, I told the Honorable Senyonyi this was internal, but I don't think it is harmful. That leading MPs is not simple. I remember one time General Muntu approached me, he was asking me to be chief opposition whip at the beginning of last parliament, and I told him no. And the reason I gave was that MPs have no discipline. And Muntu said, that's the very reason I am appointing you. I resisted, but eventually he told me, Semuju, we are training you to be a leader, and you will not choose how we will train you. I accepted. So you lead the group, some will want to walk out, others will want to stay in. But also when you are a leader of opposition, you are there on behalf of other party leaders who are not in parliament. Very difficult to make a decision because, and I remember telling the Honorable Senior at the beginning, you have parliament itself, you have your constituents of MPs, but you have the party that has assigned you. So in the end, when the leader of opposition signaled that we walk out, we all walked out.
Not all of you.
I said we all, so we are about 110. If 3 people remain, I don't think I will say that. So we all walked out. So you can mention those who remain. When we are leaders, I was chief opposition whip under the Honorable Winnie Chiza and under Honorable Betty Awol. There are decisions that we took as leaders and then just signaled to the rest of the colleagues. But there are also decisions that we processed through meetings. I cannot blame Senyonyi because we also took those sort of decisions when we are leaders, decisions processed through meetings and decisions that you will take as a leader, asking your colleagues when you signal to do something. The report that colleagues had authored, the minority report, also signed by at least 2 NRM MPs. I have not read it, all of it, but from their explanation, it was a very good report comparing, and their thinking was that if it did not convince the NRM MPs, we needed to put it on record and speak to and also make them look stupid, like many of them are, that you are passing a report, you are passing a bill that violates the constitution. But the majority, like Imam Kasos at one time said, I think they are lucky that they are ignorant, they don't read. I'm not even sure that they know what they pass. So they're working out in the wisdom of the leader of opposition was strategic because you had a decision to make. Do we legitimize this process that has not allowed any consultation to happen? Does our sitting in legitimize that process? What about colleagues who have authored a very good report? So those are the decisions he had to make as a leader, and he said he consulted some people and he came to the conclusion that walking out was in our collective interest.
Yeah, but you walked out begrudgingly yourself.
Me as a person, I have said many times, I took a personal decision never to walk out, never to boycott, whether it is elections, whether in parliament I said I must be walked out, but that's personal. I said I can't go to parliament and I walk out. The last time I was in Kasokoso, I was with the Honorable Mozo. We went to hold the rally, and the police said, no, you come on Monday, we'll even provide the security. I told Mozo, I announced today, police cannot make for me a program. I am going ahead until they grabbed me, threw me in that van. They used to take dogs and took me home. That's a personal decision. I don't boycott, I don't walk out of parliament. But I work with colleagues. So if they take a decision, I am not going to take a personal decision.
Do you wish you had all stayed?
I have told you, for me, I actually went to parliament ready to argue, because you see, that's what I told Kadaga during the removal of term limit, that you as a speaker, you are a creator of the rules. If you don't respect them, you don't invite me to respect them. And that's what I wanted to put to my friend Anita Mong. First, the rules are very clear. A report on a bill must be debated after 3 days. The reason is that you allow MPs to read and internalize, and then they come to make a decision on behalf of the country when they know what they are doing. So you cannot, because the way this whole process was handled, the MPs themselves who sit on these two committees that were processing the UPDF bill, they told them, first of all, when we are passing the budget, that you stop that work, come and pass the budget. Baka Mugabe, who was chairing the meeting, said, I have adjourned this meeting, signed, meaning I will call you. In the evening, he sent the message that you come back to parliament, we continue with the work. Now we go to Munyonyo. In Munyonyo itself, they started the process. This was a bill of more than 80 clauses. They deal with 1, 2, 3, including a bill that makes Museveni, Salim Saleh, and others permanent members of the High Command in the schedule. When the MPs voted against that particular clause and another, Baka Mugabe adjourned for some lunch. When he returned and they were voting again against another, he said, for us NRM, we want to go to Entebbe for a caucus meeting. A bill of 80 clauses. He had lost the first 3. Then he disappeared with his group. They went to Entebbe. They came back at 4 with a report. And then they said, no, we have been signing in the office of the chairman. So there was no committee of parliament that sat and processed a bill. There was no committee. They signed either in Entebbe, then others said we signed in the office of the... So even the ones who did the minority, they said, okay, you give us what you have signed. Then they read. That's why they also didn't sleep. If you ask Honorable Segona, they spend the whole evening and night and morning responding to a report. So those processes, for me, I wanted us to put them before the speaker. First of all, if you have a report done in those circumstances, our rules are very simple. That report is referred to the clerk of parliament for investigation, because that was forgery. And if the speaker refused, then we will be following no rules. For me, I wanted to go full length, but as I said, I work with others. With Kadaga, I said, we will not accept. I am now going to begin shouting all afternoon, until she brought a policeman and we are beaten. So if the Speaker of Parliament and NRM people are not following the rules, you cannot ask me to follow them. Then we go and now do it in a native way. That is my approach, but I am not the leader. So when the leader signals that you guys, let's move out, I have to respect.
But do you feel you missed an opportunity to present your concerns on the floor of Parliament?
I have said when you are a leader, I have also decisions when I am leading MPs and they rebel. One time I remember I went to Najana Nkumi and I wanted to suspend Gilbert Oranya. Because as a leader, he said, we support this. He said, no, we don't support it. Very difficult. So, I mean, if you want to work as a group, you must accept that sometimes you will not win. That's why me, who doesn't want to walk out, who doesn't want to boycott, when the signal was that move out, I said, okay, we'll move out, and then I will go and present my issues in a subsequent meeting.
Well, thank you very much. We're joined by Honorable Jimmy Akena. Honorable, the President of Uganda People's Congress, good to have you. Did you walk out of Parliament when the bills were being passed?
No, I did not, because by the time Leader of Opposition and team walked out of Parliament, I was stuck in the jam getting to Parliament. And that there was extra security, which delayed the access to Parliament. And when I got there, there was no information, prior information about the walkout. And I had some very serious matters on the Political Parties and Organizations Act Amendment, where it's being brought in the name of IPOD. I have been on the summit of IPOD for the last 9 years. I have supported activities of IPOD. I have been generally committed to IPOD. So when this bill, which is something which I am well versed with, came out of the blue by people who are completely alien to the operations of IPOD, I definitely had to take a position that I wanted to be on record. Because I had written to the Minister of Justice, who oversees EC as far as budgeting is concerned. I had written to the Minister asking for a meeting on the operationalization of 14A of the Political Parties Organization Act, which effectively meant that in the election year such as this one, we're supposed to share the money from government equally. So that was what was on my docket. So I went on the floor and I gave my position. And if we're going to have this issue of walkouts, there needs to be consultation because we're more than one party. As UPC, we had our issues, and I put my issues, as far as I'm concerned, on the Political Parties and Organizations Act Amendment. Immediately after I'd given my position, I left the House. But it was important for me to put it on record that what was being done was not being done in the name of IPOD.
Or could it be that your hands were tied, given the kind of marriage that UPC has
what marriage?
with the NRM?
You keep bringing this issue of marriage. Every election, NRM are fielded against me. I have never complained. I have never complained. Now, when we are fighting for our space, now we bring this issue of marriage. What marriage? In every election, 2006, I stood against Samingola, Vice Chair of NRM for Northern. In 2011, I stood against Orech Jogo. 2016, Awich Pola. 2021, Onyango. Every election, NRM have fielded. That has not prevented me from engaging with other political parties on the auspices of IPOD. So you need to separate the two issues. There is no marriage which restricts anything. And if it was so, I would have told the members, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. I have never told a UPC member, you cannot stand in any election against NRM.
Did the walkout make any statement on the part of the opposition?
Mine was to put the issues of the Political Parties and Organization Act, because I had written on the 2nd of April for a meeting with the EC, I had written to all leaders of political parties of IPOD, the EC, and to the Speaker, because we are at the end of the budget process. 14A provides funding during elections. I was asking Electoral Commission, at least let us have that interaction with EC, with the Minister of Justice on how we're going to handle this budgetary process in the final year. And my letter was ignored from 2nd April. Now, all of a sudden, somebody who is completely alien to IPOD comes and seeks leave, but the person who was originally on the order paper was not the one who presented on the floor of Parliament. Then seeks leave on the 13th. On the 14th, leave is granted, certificate of financial implication is given.
You're talking about Honorable Nakut?
Yes, a draft bill is presented on the floor of Parliament. I have been on the summit. Nobody consulted me. And I contacted my colleagues. None of them are consulted. So whose bill is this and to help who? The problem we've had in IPOD for the last 4 years is NRM failure to call the meetings.
Thank you. I'll get back to you. Honorable Dombo, what's your take on the rush, the processing, and the passing of the two very critical bills?
My response is going to be guesswork and speculation.
What a disclaimer.
Because I'm not a member of Parliament. They are members of Parliament and they have regulations. And they also determine the business of the House, depending either the consultation of the business committee or the decision of the Speaker, given the business that they have to deal with.
Yeah, but as a seasoned former legislator.
No, sometimes they even sit in the cabinet. This is not an outsider.
I want to tell you that I've been to Parliament and we have processed a bill in one day. Tabled, committee, and handled it. We have also handled a bill where the whole house sits as the committee of the house, and we have passed the bill in one day. So, depending on the desires that are available and the challenges that they must deal with.
How about the sensitivity?
Ordinarily, when the framers of the rules anticipated that in order to agree on what you want to decide, it is important for people to be talking to one another. But I want to tell you, Mr. Kagwanjala, that the impressions in the house is that this is a totally broken house across the aisle because the ability to talk to one another. There has been a frictious relationship between the current leader of the opposition and the team that he heads and the leadership of the house. Under normal circumstances, Honorable Semju Nganda knows. When Honorable Sibambi was there and we have Honorable Genga Latigo, ordinarily before the matter even comes before the house, the two leaders from there across the aisle ordinarily ought to meet to talk and agree on a number of things on how things should be done. But because of the collapsed relationship within the house, we can end up having this happening as it did happen. Because
so both sides are toxic towards each other.
What they should have talked, the leader of the opposition should find time to talk with the leader of government business and discuss with the presiding officer on any matter before it comes on the floor of the house.
Yeah, but prior to their walkout, you saw the drama, the exchange, the bitter exchange there was. That was enough to tell you that there was no love lost.
I think the walkout was basically dramatic, but was not meant even to demonstrate anything, because Honorable Semju tells you that the members of the committee had been in Munyonyo. Yesterday on one of the media houses, Honorable Segona was confessing on the number of amendments that he had moved at committee stage. So the members of the National Unity Platform had been in the committee stage in the hotel, and they had participated in the debate throughout. So why do you participate in the committee and give your amendments? You draft even a minority report. Then at the end of the day, you come on the floor, and some members walk out, and they walk out grumbling. So this is a leadership problem that they are facing on the side of the opposition. And I believe Honorable Senyoyi has been there for now about 1.5 years. This is long enough a time for him to be able to muscle his forces together, but also to provide leadership, especially when there are senior people like Honorable Semju, from whom he can seek some knowledge on how things should be done. You know, this bill, which had been considered, is now an act of parliament. And the future Hansard readers will miss a lot of input. When you go to the 1960s on the Hansard and find out during Obote's time how the people were debating the laws, even when they did not succeed in putting forward or having the legislation that they would have desired, you do see the debate, the underlying circumstances, and the reservations that were done.
But we don't have military raiding parliament, pick MPs like it has happened twice.
No, there was no military picking anybody yesterday, because we are talking about
But
yesterday.
you have been picked twice by SFC.
No, they have, but yesterday everybody was picked, and you saw
There was a complaint earlier that
you saw members of the
Parliament
opposition
was besieged.
You saw
There were
members.
drones all over.
You saw members of the opposition complaining. They have been in the media complaining that they came prepared. Honorable Seguna jumped on a border from the hotel in order to beat the jam so that he can come and put his case. So, for us who are outside, we miss an opportunity to hear what the other side wanted to say, but this calls for soul-searching of the leaders of either sides of the aisle, because Parliament is a talking place. People go there to talk. On the issues which you are raising about the military, they have gone before the courts of law and they have made proclamations on them. I believe from the mistakes or challenges that we have had in the past, we should be able to have better organized discussions within the parliament and having a better law made. But now, we have a law which has been made. It has passed in accordance with the regulations of parliament. Walking out by the other side notwithstanding, the law has been passed. Now we have a responsibility to tell the people of Uganda and teach them what the law provides for and what the challenges could be.
Yeah, before we get into the implications of the past bills, Kanso Katana, as one of the top leaders in the National Unity Platform, did you ever sanction the walkout of MPs from the headquarters?
Well, the starting point is that there was the Honorable Semuju has mentioned here that he learned from the leader of opposition that he consulted some people. So the people he consulted must have constituted the party leadership, but also colleagues in parliament, because this was not business of National Unity Platform strictly, but business of the opposition.
Yeah, but MPs were caught unaware.
They had an option of staying and leaving. By leaving, they exercised their sense of judgment, and it was very clear that those who walked out agreed with the walking out. Those who didn't agree stayed, and nobody touched them for not walking out. So certainly, by actions, there is an indication of consensus. But for me, I think that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that what is the context? The context is that most times the NRM wants to operate by impressions. That when they are doing their shabby things, they co-opt people from the other the political organizations to be part of the process. And that is very dangerous because it gives wrong signals to the population if these impressions are not genuine. And I think that partly explains, and the leader of opposition was very clear. He mentioned that they did not want to accompany the NRM legislators on their mischievous agenda. And so that has been explained, I believe, thoroughly, that informed the decision to walk out. And I think it has been confirmed on this show that he has been quoted as having informed the Honorable Assembly that there were consultations. But most importantly is to say that this entire process was illegitimate. Illegitimate in a sense that, one, it intended to reenact what was found to be inappropriate by both the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court, particularly the trial of civilians in the courts martial. Number two, the process which has been elaborately talked about fell short of meeting the standards. You see, the rules of procedure may set the minimum, but even by setting the minimum, it is not in any way taking away basic principles that guide legislation. For example, the laws that are enacted should be a reflection of the aspirations of the people. While you are concerned, that's why normally your consultations are not restricted to members of parliament who will have a chance to debate the proposals. That's why they invite people. For example, I have learned through media coverage and what have you that there was an invitation extended to experts at 9 p.m. inviting them to appear at 9 a.m. And this is a technical matter. People have to prepare to come and represent meaningful submissions. The invitation to Law Society was also on short notice. And you ask yourself that what was the emergency? because all this time has been there. But the intention was to mischievously circumvent the findings of the Supreme Court, reintroduce this, not because even the members of parliament felt it was important, but because they were also under pressure. Pressure from the chairman of NRM, because on record, after the ruling of the Supreme Court, he made his
He
views.
applauded the legislators, yes.
After the ruling of the Supreme Court, he called out the judiciary for making the findings they did make, and so did the Chief of Defense Forces. And when the legislators now, and I think the submission about people being summoned for the caucus meeting, having rejected a number of provisions, being summoned in itself points to the pressure they were under from the chairman of NRM. And so it is very clear that this is an illegitimate law. It offends the Constitution, it offends the international standards and practice, and it is not intended in any way to achieve the ends of justice, but to serve the wishes of an individual.
To what extent would you say that Parliament was arm-twisted and the opposition lost?
I think when we are looking at a law like this one, it is not about I don't think the people that lost in passing of this law is the opposition. It is the people of Uganda, because this law is not only going to affect the opposition.
We are not talking about the UPDF bill alone. We're looking at the two.
Yeah, but we must be systematic.
Okay, fine.
We cannot just, we must be systematic. But even if you chose to look at both, they are both laws that you would say are of high public interest. So when you are focusing, for example, still on the amendment to the UPDF Act, you realize that the people who will be affected, of course, the primary target are members of the opposition, because the courts martial have largely been used as an instrument of whipping opposition into line. Whoever has disagreed with the establishment, both in the army and outside the army, has faced the general court martial. And the list is long. The list is long. Dr. Besigye has been there, even recently has been there. The Honorable Kyagulanyi has been there. Sejusa, when he disagreed with the establishment, was taken there. Tunukunde, when he disagreed with the establishment, was taken there. So it is an instrument of oppression. It is an instrument that the regime uses to whip those with dissenting views in line. But in fact, the Supreme Court had the occasion to also indicate that this court or these courts should not only be fair to the civilians, but should be fair to the armed officers as well. And I can tell you that many of them, if you have been to that court, you realize they have also, this court is as repressive to them as it is to the civilians. But for tonight's purposes, I want to specifically largely focus on the trial of civilians in the courts martial. First of all, both the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court had the occasion to indicate that this is unlawful.
Will you allow me to look at the implications a little later?
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Sirambala, if we were to be specific on the political parties and organizations amendment, how much win has IPOD registered, given that there's been this headache of big parties like the National Unity Platform simply staying away from you?
Thank you very much, Simon. For starters, I wouldn't like to say that there is a specific winner and all losers. From them, what they thought, I have a report here on the future of IPOD. All of them, including National Unity Platform, which eventually opted not to join, said that the idea of IPOD was good. the reasons or the challenges were there, and I ought to say that they actually have legitimate reasons.
But on the contrary, the letter that was written by the party's Secretary General indicated that iPod had become a platform for heads of parties to enjoy tea and take photos.
Well,
You are in receipt of that letter.
yes, correct. But for me, that is an opinion. It's not a statement of facts.
No, that's the party stance.
Yes, but I mean, it doesn't mean that because it's a stand of the party, then it construes to be a statement of fact. It's an opinion. The fact is to the contrary. It's not that, because I can tell you, for instance, National Unity Platform, part of the 4-point-something billion they have over the course. It is the Honorable Jimmy Akenas who negotiated that money in the space of iPod. So I think to say that
Who negotiated?
And with who?
no,
Negotiating with who?
the members of iPod, for instance, what I'm saying here is that yes, can I put flesh to that?
Yes.
So what I'm saying,
And I can put clarity there.
he can put clarity, exactly. So what I'm saying is that political parties were getting 10 billion across the year. And Honorable Akena and the other members of Summit were in agreement that actually, of course, with changes, and the demands of the time, that money was small. And you need to bear in mind, like Honorable Akena has been saying, that funding, when you look at Section 14A, it is largely distributed specifically under Clause 1, which is, numerical strength. So the others are disregarded, including what I think is his biggest issue during the election year, completely disregarded. But I mean, through that discussion, which actually started from council, that I think there was a need to engage in advocacy to have this money increased. And of course, the president, who is the Minister of Finance, engagements were done, and there was that agreement.
To 35 billion.
To 35 billion. So you cannot therefore say that the platform has largely been used as a moment of taking pictures and a cup of tea. By the way, I need to remind you that even if we were to look at it as that, there are leaders of political parties who said that, look, the NRM, when it comes to issues of engaging with us, looks askance. Can you organize a meeting as a gesture of goodwill that General Museveni comes? And if he comes, that will be a beginning point of engagement. Because you need to know that trust building is not something that, is born overnight. It's something that takes time. They asked for that. We engaged. They didn't show up. Now, and again, we need to know, again, looking at it even from the process in Parliament of the leader of opposition opting, to take the members out. From my perspective, when you look at all these happenings, a political party can choose to strategically position itself at a certain point, the critical path of legislation, and say, we are going to engage up to this level, disengage and engage. So the National Unity Platform, for instance, as the leaders of opposition, like you've said, they engaged in as far as to a certain level, briefly, like, Honorable Segona coming with the others, putting up that. But then they probably thought that going ahead would not bear any results, so they disengaged. And I think it is right. It is civic.
Do they still pick the money?
Well, that money is not issued by iPod. It is through the Electoral Commission. And
But negotiated by iPod?
Yes, that fact remains. It's on record.
It's a creation of the law.
It's a creation of the law
So it's
through.
It's not a resolution of iPod.
Yeah, but you see, there are people who are watching. First of all, iPod was introduced here, I think, by two parties, mainly the Netherlands Institute for Democracy, who had helped Ghana to democratize. So the main objective of iPod was to facilitate democracy in Uganda, and in their mind and wisdom, they thought that you need to get the ruling party and others to agree on some basic principles. And for nearly now 15 years, I think the only time that there was a semblance of agreement was around 2014, 2015. The members in iPod agreed on some reforms, electoral and administrative, and even drafted bills together. Brought those bills in Parliament that were received by the Deputy Speaker then, Jacob Oranya. But eventually, Amama was first as NRM Secretary General dismissed iPod as an NGO, disowned the bills. Then Oranya and others said they were time barred and they were never processed.
So the law is here
So
now.
the decision,
so iPod can no longer be dissed.
I was in the FDC. We evaluated our participation at that time and said, you guys, this is the main objective. The main objective has been thrown through the window. We are now negotiating how much money we should get. And that's what Museveni likes. As soon as the colleagues, the president of UPC and the DP and the GMA went to Munyonyo, and they said we want funding because Museveni want to patronize everybody. Said funding, oh, that one is okay. Now they moved money from 10 to 35.
Don't you find it absurd that you've reduced iPod to money, just sharing money?
I am telling you, because by the time the FDC disintegrated, we had also exited, because we said the main objective, which was democratization, had not been made. Even when we authored bills together for electoral reforms, NRM disowned them and Parliament never processed them.
I want to get back to Dr. Serwamala. Yes. Maybe that's very important. The general perception from the opposition about iPod is about negotiating for money and other perks.
I would also like to come in on this issue.
Yeah, you see, Simon.
You'll come in.
When you talk of dialogue, you are talking about dialogue, you're talking about negotiation, you're talking about mediation. Those are the peaceful approaches, or what they call alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Now, when you have dialogue, a political party comes with what we call positions, interests, and needs. And I think each party getting into the room comes with those three. Just to correct Honorable Semuju, in iPod, the agenda in iPod, or what is discussed, is a product of consensus. The party, FDC, I think one of the things they so much wanted to have on the agenda every other time was, Honorable Kena can bear witness to me, was transition. And I think that is one of the issues that eventually led to the stalemate, because the issue of transition, political parties needed to agree on it so that it finds its way to the agenda of council and summit. But it would be pushed by FDC, and probably the other members were not, did not find it as pressing at the time. That's the first thing. Secondly, I think there are also lots of misnomers or wrong perceptions about iPod. And Honorable Semuju, I think, is one of the propagators. I will give you a little bit of history.
Of misinformation?
Of misinformation.
No.
No. Honorable Semuju. And I will give him a little bit of information. So iPod gets formed in 2009, 4 years after the return to multipartyism in Uganda. Now, government of Uganda looked around. There are countries like Ghana, which he has mentioned correctly, that had made a little bit of traction in terms of cross-party engagement. And so, government of Uganda goes and speaks, because The Dutch had been working in South Africa, had been working in Ghana, had been working in Kenya. So they say, can you also help us? Because, you know, the history of this country had been such that political parties looked at each other as, you know, competitors who needed to survive by, you know, hanging by the throat. So they came and started that engagement. And so, eventually, they come to, you know. But the thing is, if you look at...
What you have said is not true. You came in late.
No.
That iPod, you need to speak to Wafula. They are the ones who visited Ghana and asked the iPod, I mean, Netherlands Institute of Democracy that was operating in Ghana to come to Uganda. It was never invited by government.
Honorable Semuju, what I'm saying is a stated fact.
What you are saying is a lie.
On history.
I am telling you, they visited Ghana,
on record,
found them working there, and then invited it here.
On record, that is what is there. So I don't know. I don't have the record of Honorable Semuju. It could be somewhere in the docket.
We might need to take a break, and after